All right. I think we're good. Yeah, so we're doing this stream, Danilo. And it's interesting because like we've been playing around with this impact project to deal with all the state management complexity at CodeSandbox. And the question is like, what kind of abstraction do you create for these state stores? And I've been through a few of them, a few of them where like I built some on my own, and then I've tried other ones, and it's like there's so many different ways to do it. Like you have MobX with its classes, you have like the single state trees, you have Redux with its reducers and things, and but working on impact, we just have a function like a hook, and that's an interesting abstraction that might work consistently across all these different frameworks. So I thought maybe we could explore that together. Are you pumped?
Yeah, I'm so curious when you said we could implement signals. I mean, this implementation we could use all these frameworks, and
Yeah.
I'm skeptical, to be honest.
That's why you're on the stream.
So,
You're my
yeah.
skeptical opposite.
But I'm confident. I'm more than sure you can do it. But I just don't know how to do it.
Let's see. Do I have anything in there? Okay, so let's just talk about the abstraction itself first. So maybe we can. So we'll do it simply, like no complex store, but we can talk about what it needs to handle. So we can just call it like counter store or something. And like the abstraction we're going to use, it's just a function. So we could like export function use counter store or something. Let's start with React. And the point is that the thing that this abstraction needs to handle is, of course, to like define. Let's make some notes. It needs to define state, define and expose state. You want to have some concept of like caching state, like calculated state. So that would be like memo with React, but you have like derived in impact, and sometimes it's called computed, some cached calculated state. And then you want to run like effects related to when some state changes, you want to do something. Effects from state changes. And I think that's kind of the core of it. But most importantly is that you want to be able to share this. That's why we have a store, right? It's not, you don't create a store for a single component. You create it for multiple components and a bigger component tree with other components. And then there are like two ways to do that. Either you just do it completely globally, or you can do it in a scoped way. Like you can wrap it around a component tree. And what's interesting is that if you choose to do it globally, it becomes less complex because the store will never like unmount or like mount again. You don't have to do necessarily like cleanup related to unmounting and stuff like that. But if scoped, run logic on mount and unmount. So it can clean up after itself. So those are that's kind of the spec. And if we were to do this in React first, so we have a count, we have a set count, use state, we'll return an object here. We're gonna return count, and we're gonna have an increase where we set count plus 1 kind of thing. And the interesting thing, how are we gonna approach this? I don't want to make this about how React, like why we had to build Impact to make this abstraction work. We talked about that so many times. Maybe we can just cut that very short. Like if you were to do this with React, you would do something like this. But the problem with doing this is that you can't make it, you can't like just consume it globally. It needs to be exposed through React, through a context. So you would either have to create a context provider at like the top of your application and provide it there, or you could provide it at any level in the component tree. But the problem is that it's very inefficient, right? Because anything that changes within this store will cause any consuming component to reconcile. So you don't get that granular observation of state changes within a store. So it very, like the concept of having something shared is like, there's more in there, but still the consumers needs granular access to what's in the store. And then you can't manage mount and unmount. There aren't any like hooks for this. There aren't any on-mount hook or unmount hook. Like you can say that you have use effect, but use effect doesn't reliably tell you if you're mounting or unmounting, and so on and so on. Anyways, so that's why we have impact. So let's just move to impact instead. So we have a signal from, yeah, I guess it's that one. We have a count, and then we do get count, return count.value, increase count.value plus plus. So with
that's it.
Yeah, and then if you want to do this in the app, maybe we can run the app. Let's see. React. Did I use yarn? No, pm dev. Is it dev? Yeah. And then we have to make sure that our heads aren't. Let's see. Let's remove the count here, and let's just count increase. And then we use store from impact React counter store. Or yeah, okay, that's a little bit weird. Yeah, sorry. We could do, oh, come on. Let's just do this. Use counter store equals use store counter store. Should write it like this instead. And then use store. And this has to do with the reason we need this use store hook in React is because React doesn't have built-in reactivity. It doesn't observe anything. So that's the only thing that the use store does is to enable reactivity or observation in the component, whatever you want to call it.
Is it also responsible to register to a context?
So now it's global. So it doesn't register to a context, because when you have reactive primitives, they don't need to register to a React context. The only reason, the only time, like in the context of impact, using context too much, but with impact, you can scope a store to a component tree, and that's when you use an actual context, React context. But by default, it doesn't need a React context. It just needs to be like instantiated, or not instantiated, but it needs to like call the counter store and create it the first time it's consumed. And And do we see that? We don't see the count because of us. Can we move the... Where is the count? There's the button. If we put it on top here instead. Yeah, I think you can see it on screen
There you
now.
go.
So now you see like it's working. And this is like the store. And what you can do here is you can just create like any variables. You can start subscriptions. You can, it's just JavaScript. There's no refs. There's nothing special. You just have the state values just has this reactive primitive to allow the components to observe. That's the only difference. So what I thought we could do now is that we can take this thing and we can explore how we would do this globally across the frameworks, and then we can take another round and see how can we do this scoped in the different frameworks. So where should we start? React. Okay, let's do Solid then. Is this also PMPM dev? Look at that.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Every framework is using Vite, and it's amazing.
Use or counter store. That's what we called it. Okay, so the thing is, you don't have impact here, right? You don't need it because Solid has its own reactive primitives. So you would do create signal, I think. But you would still do the exact same thing here because the count, well, Solid, because it's reactive to some, no, I'm not going to state that. Like technically in Solid, you can pass the actual signal as like props down to other components. But since we're talking about stores here, you wouldn't do that. You would just consume the store if you need access to the signal. So the point is that you would do, is it, oh, sorry, it's count, set count. It's a little bit weird. Well, weird, it's unusual, I guess. So the count here isn't the actual count. It's a function you call to get the count. So it's kind of like our count.value. It's the exact same thing that happens. So impact should also have this exact signature for a signal, but it just doesn't. Because there are like different versions of this. You have, so const count set count equals create signal, and then you have count equals signal. So here you would do count for observability, set count to like change it. So you can't change it using this count. This is just the same as like count.value. But here you can do count.value equals 1. So it's just different.
If you want to pass down this signal, you would use just count. But if you want to consume, then you'd say count, execute the count function.
Yeah. And
so
you could do
is it the same thing for impact? Like if I want to pass down the prop, should I pass the count or count.value?
So because of React and React having reconciliation and being based on like props passing and memoization and all of this stuff, you wouldn't need to think about how you pass values. Like there's a very strong, what's it called? Boundary between impact and React. As soon as a value crosses the boundary from impact to React, it should just be a plain value. So you would never expose actual signals to React because it doesn't make any sense in the world of React.
Yeah.
And I want to argue in this world of like shared state stores, I don't think it makes sense for any of the other frameworks either. You really just want to consume the value as is. But then when you access the value, it does the thing that makes it observable. So we're going to put it in the component. We can just finish it here. Let's say set count. Let's see, I can remove this. And like in Angular, you also have a signal, but they have a third version of this. They have like count.get and count.set, I think. No, sorry, they have count, but then you have count.set and count.update. I think that's the signature they use. It's interesting. It's really the same thing. It's just different ways of expressing it. Okay, so now this is like, it's the same. It's just using the primitive of Solid. And then the question here though is like, how do you like instantiate the counter store? Because in React and Impact, that would happen when you use the useStore hook. That's responsible for calling the function that's first time it's being consumed. But here, since we're in a global context, we can just say use counter store, and we can just do, well, you can argue that you don't even need to like do use counter store, but let's just, yeah, I guess that's the, does Solid like think hooks? Do they have like hooks, like use stuff?
You are asking for the wrong person. I've never used a Solid.
But the point is that you don't really need a hook to consume it globally. Yeah, I guess it depends on how you want it. So one way would be to just say counter store, and then you would do counter store. You would just run it, and it's fine. Or you could say use counter store, where you would have like a store, or like store equals, how is this? Store equals store or counter store. So you would like initialize it the first time you consume it, kind of thing. So you could argue for testing, maybe you would want to do, that would be a benefit, because then you'll instantiate it when you consume it in tests, as opposed to like having a global instantiated store across your tests. Well, I guess it will be global here as well. Yeah, I'm not sure how you would want to actually consume it. But the point is, we have a global store, and it looks exactly the same. And then you should be able to just say count increase counter store. Oh yeah, sorry, counter store. And then is this like a increase? Yeah, exactly. This is the increase. And then timer. And this would just be count. I think. Does this work? Did I do something wrong?
I don't think so.
Timer is not defined. Yeah.
What?
Did I delete something?
I didn't see it.
Oh, there's a comma there.
There's a comma.
Oh,
that's tricky.
Yeah, that's tricky. Well, I guess const is fine. Did anything happen? I thought that should work. Didn't it work?
I don't think so.
Well, oh, I know why. The reason is that yeah. You want to see something funny? If we do this, and this, I think it suddenly works. What, right? And this is the thing, like, this is why I love React's reconciliation. It's because it does exactly what you expect it to do. And because there's some compiler magic happening here. And I had to look at the actual, and this is the thing, right? It's really hard to understand how does it do its observation. Like it's not obvious how it works, and you can get into these issues. But what happens is that when I do this, I'm just destructuring here, but we are actually accessing the count value up here. But what Solid does in its compilation step is that it creates a function here. It returns like a function, and then you kind of access and then it calls that function, and then it should access the count. Like it needs to access the count in this compiled function under the hood, which it doesn't do now. It just consumes the already like evaluated count.
So the return function is pointing to the structure variable instead of the store itself.
Yeah, exactly. So what we could do is that we could return the count here instead. And maybe that would be the necessary change for Solid to do this. Because now you can still pass it around as if you created the signal locally, and you explicitly say when you consume it. So yeah, I think if like Solid were to use kind of this pattern, it shouldn't use like a getter. It should just return the signal. But it's interesting. Like I had a similar issue because I tested something and I had to like and the funny thing is if you do this, even though it gives a type error, it still works.
Interesting.
Yeah. and again, like
it can be a variable, it can be a function.
Huh?
It can be either a function or a variable. Like it can be both at the same time.
Yeah, and and this is again to like reiterate. There's too much magic going on here, and I don't see the argument of needing to have surgical observation of changes inside a single component. Like with React, you can have a relatively complex element tree or component tree, and when it reconciles, it's like it does these checks and figure out what it needs to do. In Solid, it doesn't do that. It just sees that, okay, the count changed, the count is inside the div, so let's update the div. And that's cool, but within a single component, that doesn't matter. Like, I think it's perfectly fine that you have reconciliation in a component. It's when the reconciliation creates this waterfall effect. That's the thing you don't want. But that's what you can use reactive state stores for, to prevent that waterfall effect. Anyways, cool. Let's jump to the next one. Svelte. Let's copy this.
Looking forward to see the Angular one.
Yeah, like I haven't even tried that one, so we'll see. Svelte. Okay, let's do the same. Counter store. So we'll have a counter store, but here we don't use a signal. Here we use state, I think. Oh, did I install the latest? Oh, I have the wrong version of Svelte. Is this PMPM as well? No, this is Yarn suddenly. Yarn add Svelte next. Yeah, I think so. But I guess it needs like the Vite plugin next as well.
Yeah, I'm wondering, I think they have a script, I mean, a command to migrate your project from previous version to the latest one. But I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah, because this is like Svelte 5. So it's like this big major release with runes and stuff. Shouldn't it have... Let's see if we can make this work. I guess we should make it work first. I have all these comments and stuff. Let's see. Instantiating a component with new is no longer... Oh. That's pretty nice. They have... Can I click this link? No. Let's see. In blah, blah, blah. Oh, there's a mount now. Mount? Is that coming from somewhere? Mount from Svelte. I wonder why there's no typing. Didn't they remove TypeScript? There we go. Nice.
Okay, here you
go. Yeah, count is working. Yeah, no idea what's going on here. Why is it complaining? So expected 2 arguments but got 1? No, you got 2 arguments.
Isn't it the opposite?
Hmm?
Oh no, yeah.
There's something really fishy about this file. Maybe it's because it's importing. It doesn't matter. Let's ignore that. Do we have state now? Fucking language servers. Oh, come on.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna happen.
Okay, I'll try once more. But yeah, let's ignore that. I think it's just called state from Svelte. It's really sucks without the...
Yeah, we can't live without it anymore.
Yeah. But I wonder what's causing it. Do you think... Should I try restarting the branch? Because I can't even remember how it actually... But maybe we can just... where's the... Do I still have the... Yeah, bringing change. Does it say anything about preview runes? Blah, blah, blah.
I think it's a global variable.
It's a global.
You don't need to import it.
Oh, okay.
I think so. I read the documentation here.
Yes, and then I know that there's even more compiler magic in this one. So I saw a video when they introduced runes, so they definitely want you to do this. Because you should access the count at its current value. Because this is the actual value. This is 0. Which is even crazier to me. Like I don't understand how they get away with this. There's so much magic going on. It's so hard to reason about the implementation. But it's so accessible at the same time. But it's
Yeah.
still, I don't understand why more people aren't having like a serious itch. Anyways, because the magic here is that when we do count plus plus, the compiler okay, the compiler will actually go in and do more changes here. It's not like Solid is like I won't say simple, but has like a low level of changes in the code. It looks very similar, but as I understand Svelte, it does a lot more to the code. But yeah, let's try using it. How do we do that? Does it have like a count? Yeah, the count is, oh, it's a component. Okay, let's move the component up so it's possible to see it. And then let's move into the, where's the counter? Lib?
It was inside lib.
Oh, that's weird. That's weird to me. So I think you should be able to just say counter store, and then oh, you could even just say import. I think import counter store from counter store, and then you actually have the counter store. No, that didn't work.
Yeah, there's something wrong inside the counter store implementation. Look at the terminal.
Oh.
It's a constant. It should be a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
It must be a
exactly.
lot.
It must be a let. Oh yeah, of course. This is how much we struggle when we don't have. Oh,
now you need to
interesting.
import state.
Oh, okay, I do need to import it.
Yeah, it's a global when you are inside a Svelte component. Okay, here you
Are
go.
we getting anywhere with this? Oh, is this Svelte?
What?
Where they import it from?
Slash store maybe.
Yeah, maybe that's
Svelte slash store. Yeah. Oh, I don't think so.
Do they say anything about it? Like global? How to opt in? Oh. Global? No. I haven't seen them using it.
So I can see an example that is exactly what you are trying to do. And it's a global variable. It's exactly the same thing.
But maybe we can search the error. Maybe there's like, oh, maybe there's like, oh, I know. We have to rename the file to svelte.ts. Again, magic. Magic.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. Something broke on our side. No, there. Oh, there it is. And I guess the counter now. Can I do counter store.svelte? I have to do that. There we go.
Okay.
Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
and I don't know why people are making so many complaints about the the new directive from React, like they use client, they use server,
Yeah.
it's much more explicit than this.
But okay. Like it is the same. It is the same abstraction, and it looks like, and it's so interesting because it really gets to the core of how, like React, Solid, like how the frameworks differ.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's cool to see that this works as well. And then we have Vue. I think this one's gonna be easier. Vue is an awesome framework. Like if I weren't using React and had so much experience with React, I would definitely jump to Vue.
Hmm.
What would you, if you weren't doing React, what would you do?
I don't know. Probably I would try a different career. I would do something else.
That's
If
funny.
I have to choose again, I don't know.
Okay, so in Vue, do we have? We don't have TypeScript here. Just broke. I think we need to do a restart and get it back. Yeah, let's just do that.
Mm-hmm.
Do, 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 do.
But I don't know. If I have to choose one, I would try something more vanilla. I don't know. I
Mm.
remember working with Astro. I know that Astro has a lot of steps between your development and the production step, but I don't know. Everything I want to do with JavaScript, it was
Mm.
very vanilla, and I like that so much. But I can understand it's Astro is also limited for some, and so for some cases, but it's still it has awesome DevX developer experience.
Yeah, because the thing I don't understand about Astro is that it seems like other frameworks includes Astro, like as if it's like, I don't have an example in my mind, but
Yeah, you can opt in different frameworks inside Astro. I think you can run React, Vue, whatever you want inside Astro.
yeah, that's the way it works. Yeah. I think it's just because I think it's because I have Angular in here.
Yeah.
Let's just from Vue. I'm not sure if it's just ref like this, but we'll figure it out. Let's jump to Vue documentation, Vue composition API. Okay. No, I didn't want it. Ref. Yeah, so you see, they have the same like reactive primitive, but they use value like impact.
Mm-hmm.
This will be return count of value, and then increase will be count of value plus plus. Okay, I guess we have to implement our own counter in here. Components. I guess we can just do it here. H1 count needs to come from somewhere, and then click, I guess like increase or something. Increase. I think you do it like this.
Yeah, this seems weird for me.
Yeah, and
You
it's
pass
like this.
a function as a string.
Yeah. And I think here you actually return like the store. So it's like counter store. Well, I guess counter store. Import counter store from counter store or something. Is that how you... Oh, you don't return. Why don't you return? Return outside of function? How does it know? Do I just make it... Do I just do this? Does it understand that counter store?
Maybe you need to make this variable available in this context.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's... No, I think they have some magic. Yeah. So they make... The compiler makes all the stuff you import available as... Again, like accessible, but what the fuck is happening under the hood there?
Yeah.
But as you can see, this is like... I think like comparing these, especially when we started with Impact, if we went to Vue, it would be like... It's literally exactly the same, except what you call ref instead of signal, and it's exactly the same. Yeah, that's cool. Should we try Angular?
Sure.
We might be in for a surprise.
Not the least.
Yeah, like just starting the thing. Is it watch?
Isn't it start?
I think that's the... And then I guess it's like a different... Oh. Watching for file changes? Oh, maybe it is start. Okay. App. Okay. So we're going to do the same. Counter store. Let's see. Angular.dev, I think is the new page. Signal. Yeah, the question is where the hell do you import them from? Signal, I guess. Or from... Yeah, where do you import it from? That would be nice to know. Tutorials. Start coding.
Oh my god, this is frustrating.
Angular core, maybe? Angular core. Let's see, do they have... No, they don't have any.
Nope.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Like when I installed Angular, I was like, how the hell do I start with Angular? And I have to download the starter project, like as a zip file. Like they don't have any CLI starting point or anything like that. So weird. So weird. At least as far as I could see. So back to the signals. Oh, there they are. So they use, yeah, they have something similar. Like you do count, and then it was like count.set or update. Value +1. And here we're making it global again. So we'll just call it. And then the question is, how do we actually consume it? Do they have an example where they actually use it inside the component? So maybe we can just read only counter store. Counter store. Then import counter store from counter store. And then where's the HTML? There it is. So I guess count. Do they have the same thing? Like counter store.count? Oh?
Well,
And then, wait, sorry. Let's div, then button. Oh, I guess they also have like, oh, look at that. Thank you. Thank you, Codium. Increase. Look at that.
There you go.
Surprise.
Okay, it was easier than I thought.
But you see, they do have like computed, and they do have effect. So it's the same primitives, and this is also nice to go through. Is like a reactive primitive is now basically the same. They just have a tiny bit of different signature, and some of them uses a lot of compiler stuff to make the magic happen. But that's pretty cool. And yeah, so this was even, so you have kind of, if you start with impact, it's like impact, Vue, Angular, I guess Solid, and then Svelte. Svelte is the one that does the most magic. I guess Solid and Svelte is kind of similar, because in Solid you have to expose the signal. You can't use like the getter approach. But with Svelte, you have to make sure you use like let instead of const, and because it doesn't have any, like, it isn't a primitive. You actually work with the value. But that's the cool thing about Svelte, though. It's like you could have an array and you can just push to the array, and it would still work. Like the reactivity would still work. While in like Vue and React and Angular, you have to treat the values as immutable values. You have to replace the values to trigger reactivity.
I see, yeah.
Um,
but yeah, that was a cool exercise.
Yeah.
And see the difference and then see what they are the same approach between the frameworks.
Yeah.
Cool.
Exactly.
But still, I think I like React the most because it's more clear what's going on, you know?
Yeah.
And there's no magic behind.
No compilation.
Maybe it's a
happening.
bias. Yeah, maybe it's also a biased opinion because I know how impact works now. But still, if I saw that, maybe I have a clue what's going on. There's no translation step. There's no compilation step. So it's easier to get it.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like the only two frameworks that doesn't require a well, of course, Vue has a compilation step in terms of like compiling the Vue file, but it doesn't need a compilation step to enable reactivity, because it still depends on reconciliation. So it does the same thing as React. Like it just has an observer around the component, and whatever you access inside the component, it will kind of observe it. While with the Svelte and even Solid, you depend on the compiler to enable the reactivity, which is not necessarily a bad thing. Like but it has quirks. It doesn't do what you think it does, which is interesting. Anyways, maybe we can try to create a scoped version, or at least see how far we get. Like we have a few more minutes. If we jump back to React and we wanted that counter store to only work around a certain component tree, yarn dev. Let's see. Let's close all of this stuff. The counter store, and we would call create store provider. Store provider, create store provider, and then we go into, well, I guess we can just do here store provider. Like it's kind of a silly demo because it doesn't really it won't act any differently, but we don't have time to explore it too much. So yeah. Oh, what did I do? Oh, it's changing position when the that's funny. But the point is that now I provided the store to the app, and that could be at any level, nested level. That's the point. And but the cool thing is like I can pass in like, yeah. So at least we can talk about what changes now, because now you can give it like an initial count. So in the thingy here, we can say initial count, and then we use that initial count instead. Now, as it's scoped to a component tree, it means you can pass it props. And then mounting, at least with impact, mounting happens when the store initializes. So you're in the mounting scope now. Whatever you write here executes when the component mounts. And then if you want to clean up something, you can call the cleanup function, and that code runs when this counter store and its provider unmounts. So it has that capability, and this is what the other frameworks would also need to be able to do. So for
that's cool. That's one thing I like Impact, because mount is more predictable, and I know that React is going in a different direction now. But you know, especially for user interface, we wanted to know when a specific component's mounted. Maybe wanted to show us some animation, like a fade in, fade out. So it's important to know, and it's tricky today to find this information in React components.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like, if you think about, one thing is UI, but also like in state management, you create some subscription. Well, subscriptions is fine because you can like start them with a use effect. It doesn't matter like how many times the use effect runs. You will still like start subscription and end subscription, start subscription, end subscription. But it's kind of weird because you want it to start when the component mounts, and you want it to stop subscribing when it unmounts. So it's weird that it needs to start and stop it multiple times. But the biggest problem is if you want to instantiate something when the component mounts. Like you might use a third-party library where you create a class, and you want to dispose of that class when the component unmounts. And that's like, how the hell do you do that reliably? Okay, Solid. How would we expose this store on a context? SolidJS context. Counter provider. Just solve the thing. Let's see. Yeah. So I guess you would just do this. Create context. counter store context, export function. Use counter store equals use context. And the thing is, like, the reason we can't do this in React is because React doesn't observe. I wish it was possible in React to configure like hooks for handling like do something before, like a component is about to reconcile, either like the first time it runs or the last time or in between, and you can just go in and say do this as you're about to reconcile something, and then do this when you're done reconciling something, because then you could very easily insert observability. But the point is that Solid does this out of the box. So use counter store context. Did I type it wrong?
Yeah, there's a typo. Yeah.
And then use context. And then, oh yeah. So we export. Maybe we can do counter store provider equals counter store context dot provider. I think that should be enough. And then, yeah, let's just create a wrapper. And that would be counter store provider, and here we would have app, and then we would use a wrapper and counter store provider. And let's do the initial count thing. Oh wait, in the
you need to pass value.
Need a value.
It's a bit different.
Yeah. So you would have to well, I guess you will kind of have to do initial count here. Yeah. And then children. And then you would like do ugh. Why is it so slow at renaming files? I think that's when it started going bad. It's when I renamed the file. Okay, but we don't have to actually type it out. The point is that you would just expose the counter store on the provider. But as you see, it requires more wiring, which the React context API is very low level. It could have like a much simpler abstraction. But you can make that work. Like you would do value would be
counter store.
Yeah, and that's also a thing. Like, how do you ensure that it? Yeah, and here it's fine, right? Because you can do counter store initial count.
Yeah.
Because this will only run once. That's the thing that Solid promises. So we can safely create the store because it will only be created once, because this component will only run once. And then children context provider. Yeah, something like that. Can I do this?
I think so.
Should be able to do that.
At least in React Land, it makes sense.
Why doesn't it show anything? Why doesn't it give any error?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's not giving any error. That's weird. Oh, maybe it's the way we use children. Yes, because this is another thing, compiler thing. You can't destructure props.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's so weird. It just doesn't work, and it doesn't say anything. I think that's the reason. At least you can't destructure props. Oh, it didn't work. The hell did we do wrong? Props. I'm very confused.
Yeah,
Why?
I was expecting that at least we could see something.
Yeah,
And
something.
it's an error.
Oh, there's an.
Oh, here we go. There's something wrong.
Oh, sorry. Now it's use counter store. Because we're using the context. There we go.
Ah,
But it didn't start. Oh, did I forget to? So now you have.
yep.
The funny thing here, you can't destructure though.
Yeah, because this is simply JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it starts at 10. I'll double check. No, I'm very sure you can't destructure props. Like, that's why they're not doing it here either.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. But yeah, it's a little bit more wiring, but that's more because of the low-level context API than anything else. It works exactly the same. Cool. Yeah, I would love to explore like Vue and Svelte as well, but I think I'm gonna like do something based on this stream, like write an article or something. As you said, it's like an interesting reflection, and it compares frameworks from a different perspective.
Yeah, and at least it shows that it's possible to have the same approach in different. It doesn't matter the framework.
Yeah.
You want to use it.
Yeah, because
Although
that's.
React, it's not going full in the signal approach, but it can support. We can make it work.
Yeah.
Very easily.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it would be nice to be able to like, it's kind of like React has to have a package to like, it needs like, you have to install a tool to be able to do like efficient shared state management. But it's nice if you can like find an abstraction that looks the same, like it's the same approach for every framework. It would make things much easier, and having that function, it's so powerful because you can do whatever you want in there. Like, you can have just local variables, you can compose them together like using the hooks pattern. And with the reactive primitives, it doesn't matter, like it doesn't affect performance in any sense because it's just what you access, and you can dynamically create these reactive primitives, and like you can do whatever you want. As opposed to if you have these declarative state stores, or you have you're limited. Like you can't have private variables. Like where the hell do you dispose of stuff when things unmount? Just where do you put your subscription disposers? Like it's a state store and a disposer is a function.
Yeah.
And then classes, they are a good abstraction for state stores, but they're classes. They're so different from how we do everything else in UI. Like everything's a function. So yeah. Anyways, thanks for rubber ducking with me. And
No problem.
we'll
That's
see if
fun.
I'm motivated to write an article on this.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We'll talk later, Danilo.
Yeah, we talk later.
Yeah. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now.
See you next time.